Yep, this big 2026 snowstorm. So what am I going to do? Work on tackle. Welcome back, fishing friends, to the worldwide headquarters of the Pinhook Fishing Club. So we're snowed in this 2026 storm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some tackle and mainly those bait fish lures sized jerk baits that I was using the other day. I already talked about the bombers. Now I'm going to talk about a few others. If you can find these are phenomenal. These are the cotton cordell. I think they're 3-inch, maybe 3.5-inch minnows. And man, these things, little slashers, they catch them. That's about the size of the bait fish once they've matured this growing season. So they started out, spawned what, March, April, May, depending on where you are. And so they're getting about this size, maybe a little bit bigger. But man, this is a perfect snack for any size bass. Comes in different colors. But one thing is, you got to find them on eBay because they don't sell them anymore. They don't make them. The other one is, this one you can find in the store. This is the floating version. You've seen me fish this before. But this is like a lure that doesn't exist. You don't find it on the Walmart website, but you go to the Walmart bargain bin, it'll be there. Sometimes you'll see it with a purple back, black. This one, sometimes you'll see it like a all green kind of perch color. Interesting how that lure never shows up. Same thing with this one. This is the little Rebel minnow. I don't find it on the official website, just like the cotton cordell. That floating minnow, you don't find it anywhere. But you go to Walmart, sometimes this will show up on the website, but if you start looking for it, you'll see it. This is a great bait too. All right, what about some other ones? Well, they definitely don't make this anymore. It's a little Smithwick 3.5-incher, and this one will catch fish too. It's at perfect bait size. What about some other ones that they don't make? Well, this Excalibur minnow, you can find them around on eBay. These things are pretty good. Catch a lot of fish on them, and it's another one in that bait size. Anyway, check that out. Okay, what about newer type stuff you can go to? So, other ones that I've used, you've got this Yozuri right here. Caught some fish on this. Of course, Rapala, the countdown minnow and the floating minnow. This one's a countdown. This thing has caught me so many fish in the different sizes. And then the X-Wrap has caught me quite a few fish. And this Berkley Hit Stick, which is probably my favorite now of the new line of smaller kind of twitch slash jerk baits, that bait size. Plus I got a bunch of good colors in these. So I just want to share some of those with you and let you know that this time of year I catch all kinds of fish on them. I can catch drum, I can catch catfish, I can catch big crappie, and of course bass. And the bass, I can catch them in all sizes. I know we're always wanting to catch big bass, but this one right here, that size will get the job done. All right, guys, I'm going to move into doing some tying, and we'll get things rolling. I got to tell you a story about barfing. Now, a couple of things. The heater's been running nonstop, so it's getting to my vocal cords, and plus, you know, with my asthma, I'm always wheezing anyway. So my voice may cut in and out. So I'm not used to breathing in that hot, heated air all the time. The other thing is, this is going to sound strange, but back here, I had a filling come out. And when the filling came out, where my tooth is, it's like a sharp point. And it is just digging into my tongue. And I can't move my tongue in any position to prevent that. So if you hear me lisping or sounding strange with pronunciations, that's what it is. It's because I get pinched in there, and it's like a reaction to try to move my tongue, and it doesn't move until my words come out funny. So a bit of a wounded fisherman here, but we'll get through it. All right, let's talk about this barf situation. All right, guys. So I went ahead and closed the blinds over there because of how the glare would come through. I'm sure it's still super bright back there. All right, so the first ones I'm tying around these Fusion 19s, and I know these aren't really for jigs, but man, these and the smeltinators work really well for me. I'm just putting a little bit of tinsel in there, and we'll get started. These I'm going to do for some relatives, and these are going to be just from good old bucktail strands. So we'll get these going. Anyway, so this series is all about, mainly for me, for when I get old, I can kind of see what I was doing and to remember these stories that I had when I was teaching school. And I'm happy that you're here to kind of hang around and see what kind of crazy stories I've got. I've already told a few of them, and they're it's just, you never know what you're going to come across in a school situation. You know what I mean? Because kids are kids, and they're going to do kid things, and you just have to be prepared for it, because really you never know what's going to happen. And this first story is one that really, I mean, I had seen like barf in the hallway before, kids throwing up, you know. But for like in the classroom, this, let me count how many years. Probably 5, 6 years into my teaching career before I had barf actually hit in my classroom. So that's not too bad. Oops, I'm losing a few here, but that's okay. We'll get these back in there. All right. So I do have a visual aid for this story, but let me get this guy rolling here. Man, I'm telling you, there's nothing like fishing with the bucktail jigs. If you do it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So much fun to get them out there, and you just, the thing with them is they have that lifelike pattern to them, and when they're fluffing in the water like that. Now with these, I don't want too much past the hook. In a perfect world, I'd be like right at the hook. Now these are for my preference. I do most of these, I fish up in Iowa and Wisconsin. Here in Texas, I do fish them once in a while. I just don't catch as much as I do up north. And the reason for that is because up north, these are smallmouth killers. I mean, big time. But the other thing is I catch a lot of northern pike on bucktail jigs. Yep, and I don't worry about the stuff that's hanging off the top there. Now remember, I'm not a professional jig tyer. I just do this for fun. Plus, I hadn't done this, in a month or so? good right there. Not too thick. That's going to be perfect for this one. Get some more floaters here. Let's go floaters. We'll get you picked up and back in here. And then we'll get to our story. I have a visual aid for this story, but let me get this guy situated here. All right, so this is a deal. This was in February. I want to say mid to late February. So basketball had ended here in Texas, and everybody was getting ready for track. So girls track at this point was right before my last class period. So it was 7th period, 2 o'clock-ish, somewhere in there. And then I had an 8th period, for my last one. So girls athletics, they were out there getting ready for track, and it was day 1. And what they do for track is the first, I want to say, if they start on a Monday, the first week, for sure the first 3 days, they just run and run and run to get everybody into running shape. Doesn't matter what event you're going to do. Everybody just runs and runs and runs, and then they start making cuts based on tryouts. And really, with track, people that really want to go out there, really want to, make the teams, they're going to be good to go. And so you really don't have to cut many. In fact, they probably need to pull in a couple extras if they can find them. Okay, so track for the guys is in the morning. They did their stuff, no big deal. But when the girls did their track in the afternoon, track practice, it was the first day. And I want to say this year it was on a Thursday because of how things finished out with like basketball and everything else. So the first day they're out there running. I don't know what they're doing because 7th period, I've got a class and I'm teaching while the girls are at athletics. And then these are 7th grade, so they're, they got to get them into shape. A lot of them have never run track before as 6th graders because they don't have track really. So they're getting ready to see who can run, who can do long distance, who can do like hurdles, all that stuff. And I mean, they just run and run and run. So 8th period rolls around and the kids come into class and I'm sitting on a stool at the front of my room and I'm teaching, talking, and that's when everything unfolded with a barf. I got a visual aid I'm going to show you. Let me move this. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'll put it right here. All right, so here's the door to leave the classroom. My desk was kind of by the door, and my room, I had the desk lined up, so I had a giant aisle right down the middle, so I could walk back and forth. Now, over here, I just didn't have enough on this page. There'd be a third desk. So it's 3, 3, 3, 3, and then over here I have a couple with 4, and it works out great. It was a beautiful design, so I could move up and down. And then over here you got the smart board in the front, and my desk is here. So I was sitting on the stool up here talking to the students, going over everything and what we were going to do for the day. And the kids had just got in there, and all of a sudden, this young lady was sitting at this seat right here, Lexi, and she stands up and she didn't look good. She didn't even have time to change out of her athletic gear. Normally, what the girls do is, and for the guys too, you go back into the locker room. They give you like maybe 5 minutes, and of course, that's never enough time for them. So you get in there, you change out of your athletic clothes, and then you go back to class. The girls are real self-conscious about it because they want to get their hair done. They want to smell good. They want to look good for the boys. Anyway, so Lexi's here. She gets up and she just starts, I don't want to say running, but she's like moving fast. And I can tell she has kind of like a greenish, not looking well look on her face. Well, when she gets to this corner right here, I see her like jolt, like I could tell she barfed, but she had both hands over her mouth. And I'm still sitting on the stool watching. I was like, couldn't believe what I was seeing. When she gets here, see the little green marks? That's where she dripped. And because she was like coughing or, just gagging, and it was like squirting out. So I didn't notice this until later, but it was like drip, drip, drip across my desk. My chair's here. It got the back of my chair. And then when she gets to the corner of my desk, she just drops to the ground. Because see, I have a little trash can right here. That's what that little dark dot is. And she barfed in the trash can and on the floor. So she had probably 10 yards to go from here, maybe 15 yards to get right down here, and boom, I was sitting here. When that happened, the whole class was like, oh man. And it's like a natural reaction. When somebody barfs, your body goes into like prevent barf mode. And she just started barfing and barfing, and then I started to get ill. And I stood up and I said, Lexi, go ahead and take the trash can and just take it down to the nurse. So she left. So then I get on the phone and I call the front office and I tell them, say, hey, we got a code green. And that's just my silly way of saying there was barf. And they're like, what? I said, well, I had a student just throw up in here. So the custodian came down and he puts his sawdust stuff down all around there. It's to absorb it. He let it sit there for a little bit and he said, oh, it's on your desk. And I jumped up and I was like, what? And I looked over there and sure enough, I could see it. Well, he had his little cleaning cart. He cleaned that up, sprinkled a little bit of sawdust on the back of my little rolly chair. And then he wiped that down. And then he got a vacuum cleaner and vacuumed all this stuff up. Meanwhile, the kids, I just told them to kind of read ahead in the information we were looking at. But of course, nobody's going to do that. So I had the kids in that immediate area move to the other side of the room or go sit on the floor, wherever they wanted, back over where there was an empty seat or on the floor, kind of back towards the back of the room. And that worked out pretty well. Nobody barfed. But one thing is, once she left the room, I went straight into my cabinet and I got the bottle of Febreze, but I always call it Febreze. And I just carpet bombed Febreze everywhere around. And the thermostat was already down, so air was already, circulating. But I sprayed that. I went up and down the middle of the row of the room, that big aisle I have, and just sprayed it through there. A couple girls were spraying like spritzy, that stuff they put in their hair. And then other ones had like perfume because nobody wanted it, and it stunk. Anyway, so I called down to the nurse after I did all that just to check on her. And they're like, yeah, she's going home. She's going to come back and get her stuff. Well, when she came back in the room, we were, the end of the day, we only had like maybe 5 minutes left. And one of the girls packed her stuff up for her and got it ready. So when she came in, nobody laughed at her. Nobody teased her because they all know it was just unavoidable. And I mean, she was just so tired from all that running and track is what it was. They ran and ran and ran and ran. And she drank water and she didn't have time to change. She came into the room and it hit her, So now the kids knew, don't eat a big lunch. And her lunch didn't have anything to do with it. It was just they were running so much. But I'm telling you guys, it just stunk. It was bad. I mean, it was in my desk and the whole thing. And her mom, like the next day, had sent me an email and apologized for her. And of course, Lexi apologized. She stayed home the next day. But I said, hey, stuff happens. It's just a part of it, and nothing to apologize for. And for me, when you sign up to do this for a job, you just know you're going to have stuff like that. But man, that was a tough one to deal with. So I had gone a number of years without it happening in the classroom until that time. And then it gets even to where I have more occurrences. And I'll get to those stories a little bit later and tell you all about those in another barf story. So I had one where I couldn't believe it, and you figure kids in 7th grade would know just to get to a trash can or just run out. But sometimes they don't think that because your body's going through this barfing situation. But man, I don't know how I got through it. And I talked to my friends and family. They're like, what did you do? You didn't start barfing? And I held it together. I didn't, I didn't lose it. I guess because when you're at work and you're dealing with kids, you got to be on the whole time. You have to be professional. But, I mean, yeah, it was bad. So, anyway, and the custodian, he got it all cleaned up. And then when she did come back to school, I think it was a Friday, she wasn't there the next day. Then on Monday, they came back and nobody said anything to her. They were all cool with it. And she apologized again. And I said, hey, don't worry about it. It's part of the job. But anyway, that is one of the times where I had barf that was on my stuff. And the thing is, it wasn't any fault of the custodian, but he didn't get, he looked around to get all of it, but he didn't. So he pulled my chair out to make sure it didn't seep into the chair, and some did. So he cleaned that. I mean, he really cleaned it. But there was a spot where it had dripped down. It like ran off the desk a little bit and came down the front face of my drawers. So I saw that and I had to clean that up. And that was after school. So once the kids left, I mean, I had to go through inspection of everything. My little brush here for the glue for this loons is so wrecked that it's not a brush anymore. It's just like essentially the tip of a stick. But it still gets the job done. Anyway, so once I got everything after school situated, of course I had to tell all the teachers what happened. Other teachers are like, hey, we heard that, so-and-so had barfed in your room. How'd you get through it? And all this. And, I had to give like a play-by-play. But the thing is, I didn't want to be critical or rude to her because, it's just, she was sick. All right, this is going to work perfectly for me. It goes just past the hook, and it's going to look better when it's in the water. Got just a little bit of tinsel in there. That works for me. Now, these are actually for a friend of mine, but they're going to like them. I mean, they really like the other ones I have. I've given him 3 or 4, and so he wants some more. All right, guys, I'm going to keep working on this. Until next time, I will see you then, and we'll come up with another barf story. Thanks for sticking around. And don't forget about those lures. If you're looking for a smaller, like bait size, little twitch baits like that, get them. The hit stick right now has got some really good ones. They're a little bit expensive for me, but I think they should be around, $6-7. I think they're like $9. You'll have to check on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what I remember. But give those a shot, like the Bomber 14A, which I talked about the other day. Man, those things are great too. So just get them in there. The fish are going to find them. And not to say that the bigger jerk baits aren't going to catch anything. They work too, but sometimes you just got to switch it up a little bit. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been catching my big ones, the big jerk baits, and the little ones. All right, guys, until next time, I'll see you then. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye-bye. Now get out there and get your lures wet.